break. After a long break. So, our parsha starts with Yaakov's dream about the ladder. There's a big question. What is the meaning of this dream? You could see Ramban here. There are other approaches as to the meaning of that dream and what's the relationship, if there is, between the dream and the revelation and God's speech to Yaakov right after it. What is the purpose? What is the role of this dream? Why is it dreaming it now? And what is it meaning? What does it mean? So that was like the hook that gave me the idea to share with you today some sources and thoughts of mine about the halachic validity of dreams in general. Generally speaking, we know that the attitude towards dreams is really the range of the attitude towards dream and their validity. The range is from just seeing dreams as nonsense. There's a term in the Gemara, "Hachalomot shav yedaberu." "Hachalomot shav yedaberu" means that a dream is not reality, and sometimes you dream about nonsense, and therefore it really doesn't mean it has no truth. The truth value of a dream, that's really the question here. What is the truth value of a dream? How much do we consider it as a real thing? So here, I think already in our sources we see the ambivalence. You could see the dream as chalomot shav yedaberu, meaning we don't need to pay attention to dreams. It was just a dream. Until chalom echad mishishim benevuah, that the dream is 1 out of 60 of nevuah, meaning that it's really an external message of truth. Nevuah is something true. Okay, God, a way of God to communicate to us reality. So you understand there is a very, very wide range here, starting from seeing the dream as nonsense to seeing dream as a partial of a prophecy. So that's a wide range. And I think that these two statements that we have in the sources are really a reflection of, if you'll go to the man in the street, let me ask you, if we'll do a survey now, not even to Jews, to Stam in a street in France, okay? And we'll ask people there, we'll do a survey, we'll do a poll. What is are dreams true or not? When I have a dream, how should I consider it? As something that I should take serious or just say, it's just a dream? Stam, I'm asking you, what do you think will be the answers if we'll do such a survey? We'll ask people, when you have a dream, do you treat it as nonsense? It's just a dream. I should ignore it and continue my life, or this is a message that I should take seriously because I had a dream. What do you think?
Doesn't it depend on what kind of dream it is?
No, the dream will. Let's assume. Thank you, Phil, for making me make the question more well defined. We know that many times the dreams are including things that are not rational. Okay, like I had a dream when I was a yeshiva bachur in Hester that my commander in parachutes, that was a totally secular guy. I had a dream that he's my Rebbe in my yeshiva. Now you could see some logic. I had once a dream when I came back to yeshiva that he's giving a Gemara shir in front of that very, very secular officer that was my commander, my direct commander. So when I want to say these mixtures of times, things that don't belong in times, a mixture of images, And we know that the dream, that's the way the dream works, okay? All right, so let's assume that I had a typical dream. Yeah, and when I say typical, meaning that there was this mishmash in the dream. So, and then I ask a person, so should I just ignore the dream because it's nonsense? Okay, or no, there is some, if I had a dream, there's truth in this dream.
You're really asking about deep psychology, because it depends on the nature of the dream. For example, if there's something you badly desire, you may dream that you got it. There's something you don't like, you might do the other way. I like the Rambam's discussion about Abraham's 3 visitors, that it was a dream. And it still shocks me because I believed it was true. But basically, it's brain surgery you're talking about.
All right, so Phil, I agree with you, but I just, I'll end the discussion now. I just wanted to feel what unless someone else wants to say something, because my claim was that our attitude toward dreams, most people, yeah, I think is ambivalent. All right, that I'll find probably if I'll now walk to a street in France, okay, and France, America, doesn't matter. It's some random street. Yeah. And I'll ask in the Western world, okay? And I'll ask, do you think that dreams are totally nonsense or that dreams are prophecy? I'll have a wide range of answers. Some of the people will take more seriously the dreams. Some people will say, yes, you really should ignore at least most of it, okay? Because it's only a dream. It's not reality, okay? And I think that what I started, Phil, before you came, that even in our sages, I see the 2 statements. I see one statement saying, "Achalomot shav yedaberu," dreams are nonsense. And I see another statement saying that Hachalomot, both in the Talmud and the Babylonian Talmud, Hachalomot, Chalom echad mishishim benevuah. Chalom is a certain way of prophecy. So that's a very, very big gap, yeah, between saying a dream is nonsense and a dream is a certain form, derivative of prophecy, okay? And of course, there's a lot between, meaning that I'll say some of it is nonsense, but I can't totally ignore it, okay? So there is some ambivalence, I think, regarding dreams. Now, before I zoom into the sources, because I say that the sources are, and the shir, this is like a short introduction. The shir is the halachic validity of dreams, okay? Now, you need to understand that this topic, the halachic validity of dreams, is, of course, the first question will be, wait a minute, if I want to, let's say, rule halacha according to dreams, just we'll give examples. If I want to rule halacha according to dreams, well, the first question is whether there's any validity of dreams, not halachic validity, but are they nonsense or not? Because if they're nonsense, of course, it doesn't make sense that they'll have any halachic validity. What if they're not nonsense? Okay, that we'll discuss, okay? Now, because in terms of ruling halacha, there are some other parameters, as I'll discuss, okay? Not only the question of the truth value, but the sine qua non is to explore the truth value of the dream. And the truth value of the dream is, as Phil said, has to do with science, has to do with psychology, okay? How much validity does a dream have in terms of its truth value? So I'll just say very, very briefly, because it's not the topic, but it's like a preliminary discussion before discussing the halachic validity, is, in psychology, for instance, or we'll start before psychology. We see that when the sages in the Babylonian Talmud are dealing with dreams, and a lady comes to the Beis Midrash and tell the Chachamim, I had a dream this night. How do you explain it? Okay. Or what is its solution, as we see later in Bereshit, that we're speaking about solution of dreams. Freud will call it interpretation of dreams, the name of his a masterpiece in 1900. So here we see that it's something very, very interesting in the Babylonian Talmud that reflects, I think, a certain vision that was at that time. That yes, sometimes the dreams does deliver a message, an external message, like nevuah, a prophecy, but, and that is very thought-provoking, that part of what will define the reality is how I solve the dream. Meaning that there's a lot in the hands of the chacham, that is solving the dream. Meaning a dream itself could be interpreted sometimes to the negative and to the positive. And they blame, in one of the stories in the Babylonian Talmud, they blame the chacham that gave a bad solution, meaning that something bad will happen. So they didn't blame the dream, they blamed him that it happened, meaning they say the solution is part of what forms the reality, the way I interpret the dream. Now that's, or the way the sage, the chacham, interpreted the dream. Now that's very interesting, okay? We could explain it, of course, also on psychological grounds, that the narrative that you built, that's what's going to happen. I must tell you that the pshat of the Babylonian Talmud doesn't go in that rational explanation, but really think a certain vision that metaphysically the solution of the chacham influences the world, okay? The dream is kind of a certain message, and the solution now decides, in a way, what's going to happen. Okay, then if we jump to, let's say, the Freudian approach to interpretation of dreams. So Freud definitely didn't think that dreams are nonsense. That they have a zero truth. Freud believed that dream is one of our gates to be aware of our unconscious world. Meaning we have all kinds of drives, traumas, desires, wishes, that we can't be aware of, because if we're going to be aware of, then that will totally threaten us. We'll be in total anxiety. Let's say that we have forbidden sexual desires. That's just one example. Or all kinds of other things, all kinds of other anxieties, fears, whatever, that if they would be very accessible, easily accessible to our self-awareness, to our conscience, that will collapse. But they go out, and again, not explicit, in a certain protected way, symbolic way, not rational way, okay? Mixture of times and of cause and effect. But that's like really, that's our inner world. That's our real self in a way, if I am able to interpret the dream properly, okay? Our deep self. So that's Freud. Then we have more cognitive approaches, cognitive psychology approaches, that are saying either that we continue to process things that we were thinking about during the day, we're continuing to think about and process it during the night. I must tell you that when I'll give you an example for that, again, from self-experience. When I was a 10th grader in America, we were in a year sabbatical in America. My father is a professor. We were for 1 year sabbatical in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as a 10th grader. And there was a certain, I studied computer science, and I needed to do a certain algorithm, to use BASIC. That was the language of computer, what's the word, metachnet? I missed the word. Programmer, yeah, thank you. Just here you see that I'm an Israeli. So a programmer, and the task was to find a way to program that the computer will do the Fibonacci mathematics sequence. Was a little challenging. I went to sleep, I slept, let's say, 7 hours. It was not solved when I went to sleep, not at all. And I woke up and I ran to the computer and wrote the solution. It was mamash, the minute I woke up, it was there. So it's clear that there was some processing going on when I was sleeping, okay? And some connect the dreams to that. Furthermore, some say that the dreams is a certain, there is a theory that the dreams, that during the dreams, what I'm doing really is the mind is processing, and it kind of erases or throws to the garbage some non-needed information or something like that, and maintains only the needed information, something like that. And maybe part of what we're seeing of the nonsense has to do with that. Look, all of these explanations, I believe, are partial. I think that we have an interplay of many, many things in dreams. But the main question is that clearly some things are not logical in dreams. Already Freud pointed out to that it's a different kind of logic. There's no chronological order. There's no cause and effect order, normal cause and effect order, normal chronological, a lot of mixtures, a lot of things. And therefore, the question is, how much of it is nonsense? How much of it is not nonsense? And consequently, how much can I rely on a dream when I'm taking decisions, and definitely when I'm ruling halacha, okay? So now I want to share the screen with you of the sources, and we'll go there.
Why do we have Tanit Chalon?
What?
We have Tanit Chalon.
Yeah, we have Tanit Chalon, which
So
means,
some
right.
kind of,
And Tanit Chalon means that that is, thank you very much, and we'll mention it here in our sources. Tanit Chalon, meaning the fact that we are, that people are taking, in our sources it's brought, are fasting and when you had a bad dream, okay, that when you had a bad dream, you're fasting in order that this bad dream won't happen. That means that I'm treating seriously the dream, implied. Definitely, that's a source that indicates, yeah, if I mentioned before as a general attitude to dreams that we see sages saying, dreams are nonsense. And we see others saying that it's a certain derivative of nevuah. That definitely, here is a halachic implication of an approach that more sees it as perhaps a nevuah or something like that. Yeah, a prophecy. So now let's look at the first source that I think is very surprising. I'll make the letters bigger, okay? Here, the letters are bigger now. So the first source is a Gemara in Sanhedrin. I'll just also say that Rav Asher Weiss has a nice share on the topic, okay? And of course, I use some of his sources. I have a shtickle, I'll say he's not clear regarding some of his statement, and depending how I understand what he's saying, but if I understand in a way that he says, then I think that I have a little ha'ara on what he says. So we'll get to that later. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says the following. Okay, the Gemara in Sanhedrin says the following. A guy was sorry because he knows that his father left him money, inheritance. His father passed away. The story is the following. The father passed away, and he is very sorry for the fact that he has no clue where is this money. You know, he has some inheritance. There's a certain sum of money that his father left to him. His father passed away, and he has no clue where it is. It's very frustrating. He doesn't know in which bank account it's deposited, or he doesn't know in which drawer in the house it is. And literally means the owner of the dream, but it means he had a dream. Ve'amarlo. And this, in the dream, he was told, Kach v'kachen. It's $500. B'makom plonihen. It's in the right corner of the kitchen, but hidden in a certain drawer. Okay, so it's $500. Kach v'kachen. B'makom plonihen. It's in this place. Shel meiser shenihen. But this money is a meiser sheni. What does it mean? That I can't halachically use this money now. I can't now buy in these $500 whatever I want. I need to treat this money b'kedusha, meaning I need to go to Jerusalem with it. I live in Kiryat Shmona, so it's not accessible, and I need to treat it in a certain way, and I'll have to spend it. This money I'll have to spend only by eating with it food in Jerusalem. I'm very limited in how I use it, if at all. All right, Ze haya maaseh. This was the story. And then what happened? Listen, he had no clue where the money is. After the dream, he went to the place where he heard in the dream, only in the dream, where's the money? And he found, not only that he found the money exactly in the place where the money was, not only that, he found it was the same amount of money that was told in the dream. So everything was accurate. The dream was absolutely accurate. And the dream had 3 statements. It's $500, it's in this place, and it's meiser sheni. So now the question, after he found the money, what should he do? Should he indeed treat the money as meiser sheni, meaning he's not allowed to spend it, he must take it to Jerusalem, must buy their food in Jerusalem with the money, and no other permission for usage of that money. So I'm asking you guys, fellow, what do you think? Now he's coming to the rabbi in Kiryat Shmona, this guy, and he asked, should I indeed use the money only in the way that the dream told me? What do you think? What is the logic? The common sense logic says, Harold, there is a lot. What is the
logic? The logic would be that since 2 out of the 3 components of the dream were correct, that the third one must be correct also.
Right. Without the dream, I would even say in a Talmudic way, there's a migo, meaning if you understand, the mouth that permitted is the mouth that prohibited, meaning you wouldn't have the money without the dream. You wouldn't have the money without the dream. The only way you found the money was because the dream was accurate. So you won't treat seriously the halachic restriction that the dream contained, right? That's the very intuitive ruling. Anyone thinks differently? Meaning it's a pretty extreme case in that sense that we have already proof that the dream is valid. What?
Depending on the man's nature, whether he's charitable or not, or how observant he is, you'd want to analyze it if there are a large amount of money. He may have subconsciously saying where his father put the money, and if he's a religious guy, he'd be concerned about it. And if he's not a religious guy, he's not concerned about it.
Yeah, we're talking about a religious guy. No, I think that psychologically you could say maybe there was some guilt, or, we can say all kinds of theories. But the question is, can we ignore the dream here, okay? And just tell him, you can go ahead and spend the money however you want, okay? Now, let's look at what the sages are saying here, because the sages are saying something very clear. So he asked the rabbis, and they told him, look at the statement. Divrei chalomot, lo malin velo moridin. A very extreme answer. They're telling him, you can go ahead and ignore the dream. Now, what do you mean ignore the dream? I found the money only because of the dream. No. Divrei chalomot lo ma'alin velo moidim. Words of dreams are not adding and are not, they don't count. The kids or dreams don't count. You found the money based on the dream. We don't care. You could spend the money however you want. It's mutter, and ignore the fact that the same dream told you that it's Meiser Sheni. That's a very bold and extreme ruling. Nachon Harold. It's exactly, I mean, it says, yeah, true. The dream was proved to be true because you found the money only because of the dream. But any halachic statement that the dream said, yeah, or it's not even it's a reality statement that has halachic implications. It says this money and identity is a Meiser Sheni money. No, we ignore that fact. Okay, we ignore that message of the dream. Okay, we'll have to explain why. All right, we'll have to explain why. Why are they saying divrei chalomot lo malin velo moridin, or what is the meaning of that? So I b'chavana made the first source a little slow because I think it's actually the most provocative one. But let's go to the next source, okay? And these ones we'll do maybe a little faster. Ahu apotropus dehave b'shevavute de Rabbi Meir. There was someone that was in charge of orphans. Yeah, orphans. So someone was appointed to take care of their money, and he was a neighbor of Rabbi Meir. Now, he violated a halachic rule. The halachic rule in Gittin says that an apotropus, this person that is dealing with, that is in charge of dealing with the finances of these orphans, young orphans, he is limited. He's not allowed to buy land, to sell land and buy slaves. Land is considered something more stable, more safe. Okay, so he can't take too many risks, financial risks. Maybe with his own money, if you have property, you have lands, go ahead and you decide to exchange the land with slaves. Fine, go ahead and sell all your lands and buy slaves. But no, this you cannot do. It's against halacha to take property, to take land, real estate of orphans, sell it and buy with the money slaves for them. No, you're not allowed to do that. Because slaves is considered a less secure finance property than land, than real estate. So he was a neighbor of Rabbi Meir. He was doing this thing that is not allowed. Velo shavke Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir didn't let him do it. Rabbi Meir blocked him from doing it. Then Rabbi Meir had a dream. And in this dream, God tells him, what do you mean? That's my plan, that since perhaps their father got the money not in a straight way, he was a ganav, whatever. So I gotta have a plan, laharos, meaning that indeed these orphans will lose the money. Ani laharos ve'ata livnot, and you're protecting, meaning you're now intervening. Rabbi Meir is hearing in his message in the dream. You're now intervening in God's plans. The fact that this apotropos, this guy that was in charge of the property of the orphans, was acting that way, now Rabbi Meir hears that that's part of God's plan and that he's actually interfering here and setting obstacles in God's plans. Now, did it affect Rabbi Meir? The answer is no. He said, I don't care about what I had. I don't care, or I'm not going to follow the dream and let this guy sell land and buy slaves. No, I will continue to block him from doing it. Amar, he said, Divrei chalomot lo malin velo moridin. The same turn. The words of dreams don't count. Lo ma'alim, they don't add to something, and they don't subtract from something. They're not a function. Okay.
Right, but who had the dream?
Rabbi Meir had the dream. Rabbi Meir is the rabbi that interfered and blocked the guy from selling the land. Then God told him, what are you doing here? My plan is that he will indeed violate halacha and sell the land so that this thing will be destroyed, meaning they will get the money. But Rabbi Meir ignored this godly message from the dream, and he said, dreams don't count.
And it was somebody else's property involved.
Right.
That's the point I wanted to make.
So now the Gemara in Nedarim is saying the following. Amar of Yosef. Yeah, we're in the third source. Niduhu b'chalom. He had a terrible dream, a traumatic dream. A person had a dream that he's ostracized, that he is excommunicated. He's excommunicated, but that wasn't a dream. I mean, there was a process of excommunicating him, but it was done in the dream. So, okay, it was done in a dream. It's only a dream. No rabbi excommunicated him. What is the validity of being excommunicated, but in a dream? So Rav Yosef says that you actually do need to gather 10 people to undo that excommunicating. Lehatirlo. Now, that's interesting. And then there is a whole discussion, what kind of people should be there, the 10 people? But then, Amarle Rav Acha Ravashi, so Rav Acha says to Ravashi, Shamte v'sharule bechel meimai. What happened if the whole process was in a dream? The dream started with excommunicating, and then afterwards, he had a dream. In that same dream, later on in the dream, 10 people actually were permitted his excommunication. Does he have still to gather in reality 10 people? Or I say, okay, it's the same dream. There was a dream that he was excommunicated. And in that same dream, 10 chachamim undid. Yeah, we're undoing that excommunication. So what should he do? My Amarle keshem she'i efshar lebar below teven, just like in every wheat, you have when you go to the field and you gather, you do the harvest, the crop, the whatever you gather, it is always mixed with dirt. Yeah, we know that's why in Hilchos Shabbos we have the malacha of zoreh and borer, because when you gather the wheat from the field, then you need to clean it up from all the dirt that is mixed with it. So he says, just like wheat is always mixed with dirt, kach I efshar lachalom belo dvarim betelim. So every dream has also some nonsense in it, or nonsense has some. Every dream is mixed with things that are not valid, that are not true. So what is he telling him really? Look at that. Statement number 1 of the Gemara in Nedarim, that's our third source. If someone has a dream that he was excommunicated, he can't just ignore it. If someone had a dream that he was excommunicated, he needs 10 people to undo it. That's statement number 1. Now that is already in conflict, in appearing conflict with the first 2 sources. The first 2 sources said loud and clear that we're not taking seriously dreams when we're coming to decide halacha. We are ignoring the fact that the guy had a dream that the money of his inheritance is a Meiser Sheni money. Rabbi Meir ignored the fact that he was told that the plan is that this guy that is in charge of the orphans will sell the land. No, he ignored it and said, no, I'm not letting him selling the land because it's against the halacha. Even though I got a a contradicting message in the dream. So in the first two sources, we see that we ignore the dreams. And here in this source, we're taking very seriously the dream. It was excommunicated in a dream, and we're saying, no, you're not allowed to ignore it. Rabbi Yosef says, you need to gather 10 people to undo it. Later on in that source, point number 2 in that source, that if I had in the same dream that I was excommunicated, and then in stage 2 of the dream, I was liberated from the excommunication. No, I'm concerned, maybe only the first part is valid, that I was excommunicated. But the last part of the dream that was matir to me, maybe that was, now I'll give a psychological interpretation, it was just a wishful thinking, okay? But it's not part of it's not a true thing. It's not a valid part of the dream, because every dream has parts that are not valid, but you don't know what was valid here and what wasn't valid. You're in a doubt. So you need, because of the suffix, to what? To take 10 people that will undo what you did, what you do, that you were excommunicated, even though you had a dream that part of the dream was that 10 people in the dream undid your excommunication. At any rate, what we see in source number 3, that we're taking at least part of the dream seriously, whereas in the first 2 sources, it was said in a very bold way, Divrei chalomot lo ma'alin velo moridin. Dreams don't count. Let's continue. Source, the Gemara in Tainus.
Maybe the reason for the first is because Torah lo b'shamayim hi.
Okay, very good idea. So if Torah lo b'shamayim, very, very good idea, then why in source number 3 regarding the excommunicating, there you don't say that?
It's an halacha. It's nothing to do with halacha. It's
What?
not to do with that's not the Torah. It's nothing to do with that type of issue.
I don't understand. The laws of excommunications are part of halacha, as far as my knowledge goes. And he had a dream that he was excommunicated, and was only in a dream. What is the validity of that? What is halacha lo b'shamayim? What do I care that a heavenly voice said that you're excommunicated? Since when am I b'chlal taking seriously a heavenly voice or a dream regarding these matters? If you take lo b'shamayim, you need to be consistent.
Now, the first 2 cases where you're talking about mice and money, and that's actual from the Torah, and then the nidui is not as.
The nidui is a halachic construct. It's not why should I take seriously a dream if dreams don't count regarding? By the way, don't get me wrong. I think you're saying a very true thing. Actually, will be. Now it's a spoiler. That's my direction in this sugya. Exactly what you said. Okay, and that's my little shtickle difference, man, from what Rabbi Asher Weiss maybe says. Okay, because maybe he says exactly the same thing. It's just he's a little unclear in his wording. Okay, let's continue. But I'm just showing you that it's not that simple to fit in the fourth source, the third source. Yeah, because if I'll be very consistent with that position, I should also ignore the fact that I heard in a dream that I'm excommunicated.
It could be the topic of the dream that's involved. In other words, that you're going to change an economic act on a dream is one thing. That you personally feel you did something wrong and maybe you deserved.
So that could be a direction. We'll see, to distinguish between the sources adding to what was said about lo b'shamayim. Let's see 2 more sources. Amar Rabba from the Gemara. Amar Rabba bar Mechasia, Amar Rav Chama bar Guria, Amar Rav. Okay, source number 4, Gemara and Tainus. Amar Rabba bar Mechasia, Amar Rav Chama bar Guria, Amar Rav. Yafat ta'anit lachalom ke'esh leneoret. A fast day is a good cure or fits well or serves well a bad dream, meaning it will fix it, it will be an atonement for it, like fire just like the fire works well with the fire material, okay? So the fire is fitting well, or is the thing that is fitting compatible to the fire material. The same whole, the fast day is the solution to a dream. The Amar of Chisda, Ubo Bayom, but it should be juxtaposed, meaning you woke up in the morning with a bad dream. If you want to feel good, or if you want that the problem with the dream will be cured, then you need to fast in that day. Not say, okay, I'm fasting next week because it's more convenient to me to fast next week as an atonement or as a solution to the bad dream I had now. That won't work. You need to do it adjacent to it, right after it. The Amar of Yosef, Afilu b'Shabbos, meaning since it's so critical that the dream will be juxtaposed to that the fast will be juxtaposed to the bad dream, since it's so critical that the juxtaposition, then we even allow you to violate, it seems, apparently violate the sage's mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos and fast on Shabbos, meaning you woke up on Shabbat morning with a terrible dream. But we still know that it's not good. It's not appropriate to fast on Shabbos. But on the other hand, if you want a solution to that bad dream, that's what you should do. So what will you do? Leitiv ta'anita l'ta'anita. A pretty weird thing. That's the conclusion of the Gemara. What are you supposed to do? You wake up on Shabbat morning, you had a terrible dream. You fast that day, and then you will fast another day as a kapara to what? To the fact that you fasted on Shabbos. You're doing a tanis on the fact that you fasted on Shabbos. So of course you'll say, okay, so maybe just don't fast on Shabbos. You're ruling me to do a bad thing, apparently, because you're saying you need then later to do a fast day because you fasted on it. No, but that's the Gemara's conclusion, that a bad dream is apparently something serious that requires you, at least allows you to fast on Shabbos, even though it's not appropriate, and then you'll have to fast because of that. But a bad dream is serious enough that you're allowed to fast on Shabbos. So here, the first two sources were very clear that dreams are nonsense, or apparently nonsense. Okay, there's no halachic validity to dreams, let's put it this way. Were the two first sources. And then we saw two sources that in halachic discussions, in a context of halachic discussions, took dreams much more seriously. I can't ignore the fact that I was excommunicated in a dream. I can't ignore the fact that I had a bad dream. Okay? It allows me the dream is serious enough that it allows me to fast on Shabbos. So, interesting. It seems that there is some ambivalence in the sources. So, let's see if there's a way to harmonize them. But let's see the fifth and last Gemara here. Okay, the Gemara at the end of Masechet Horayos, the Gemara tells us an interesting story that Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Natan were insulting the president, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. They were insulting him, or they had a clash with him, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Natan, with Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. They tried to insult him; it didn't work for them. So, Asikul Rabbi Meir acherim. So that's why in the Mishnah, Rabbi Meir is not called in his name, but he's called always Acherim Umrim. When it says Acherim Umrim, it's Rabbi Meir. So his name is not mentioned in the Mishnah because of that. Well, Rabbi Natan, Yesh Omrim, and Rabbi Natan that was partnered with him there, he is labeled in the Mishnah not as Rabbi Natan in his name, but as Yesh Omrim. Then they had a dream. They both had a dream. Zilu Faisu Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Both of them had a dream that they should come and ask Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel for forgiveness and try to make peace with him. Rabbi Natan Azal. Rabbi Natan had that dream. He went ahead and acted upon that dream, meaning he went to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel and apologized because he had a dream that that's what he should do. Rabbi Meir lo azal, but Rabbi Meir was stubborn. He didn't come to apologize, even though it was said to him in the dream that he should apologize. Amar, or make peace with him. Amar, divrei chalomot, lo malin velo moridin. He says, dreams don't count. Now look, it's very, very interesting. Rabbi Meir is also the one in source number 2 that said that even though he had a dream that he's intervening in God's plans regarding the property of the orphans, he ignored the dream with the same terminology. Divrei chalomot, lo ma'alin, velo moridin, right? So Rabbi Meir is consistent. So we can say that actually the attitude towards dream and how much they're valid is maybe machlokas tanaim. Rabbi Meir says they have no validity. And Rabbi Natan, who went and apologized based on the dream that the message that he got received in the dream, he perhaps thinks the dreams are serious. So maybe actually the conflicting sources are following a machlokas between Tanaim about whether divrei chalomot lo malin velo moridin, whether indeed we should ignore dreams or not. What do you say? That's definitely an option. I'm just saying an alternative option here. I was waiting to hear if someone wants to suggest an alternative option. That indeed Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Meir here differed. Rabbi Natan took the dream seriously, and Rabbi Meir said, I don't need to take the dream seriously, and I won't go and make peace with Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. However, maybe only here Rabbi Natan disagrees with Rabbi Meir, but in other cases, he would say that he's agreeing that we should not, that lo b'shamayim. Yeah, all right. So it could be that the machloket between Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Meir here is how to define exactly this category. Is it like a halachic instruction? Go apologize. If it's a halachic instruction, then Rabbi Meir says, okay, in halacha lo b'shamayim. Or, what do you mean? The halacha is only the outcome. But here, it's just a dream about personal midot, derech eretz, understanding the situation. So here, Rabbi Natan says, I will follow the dream. Maybe that's exactly their machloket here. How do I categorize this case? We had a certain incident with Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. If I dream that I should make peace with him, is that like a halachic intervenance of a dream? Or is it something that has to do with derech eretz, which of course has an outcome, a halachic outcome, but the first and for all, it's a derech eretz. That's interesting. At any rate, we're still left to see how we reconcile exactly the first two sources with the second two sources. So let's see some approaches here. Okay, so I'll go to the Ran here, but I will return to the Ran You know what? I definitely want to start with the Tashbetz. Okay, Tashbetz is in page number 2, and let's read it. The Tashbetz, who is one of the Rishonim, the Tashbetz is saying, Harei kan stira meforeshet. Behold, there here an explicit contradiction between the sources. Yeah, the Tashbetz points out that there is a contradiction here between the sources. There's a source telling me, even though the dream said that it was Meiser Sheni, the money has the status of Meiser Sheni. And even though it's only based on the dream that I knew where the money is and how much money is there, I will still ignore the fact that it was said that the money has a status of Meiser Sheni. And on the other hand, if I was ostracized, excommunicated by a dream, I should take it seriously. Harei kan stira meforeshet. Ve'efshar lefaresh she'ein bastira. So he wants to reconcile the stira. Okay, here he makes a certain distinction that we'll ignore now. V'ani omer, I skipped here. V'ani omer, ki ma shemerapeh shever kushia azot, what will cure, what will solve this contradiction, he says the Tashbetz, I'll quote you one statement from Brachos. Rava, the Amora Rava pointed out to a contradiction. On the one hand, we have a verse saying, one verse says that dreams are nonsense, are saying false things. Dreams are telling me false things. And another source is regarding Moshe Rabbeinu. It says, regarding all the Nevi'im, it says, Moshe's prophecy is different. The end of Parshat Ba'alotcha. But the pasuk there says, it says there explicitly that one of the ways that God delivers prophecy is a dream. So how can we know when God speaks to us in a dream? How can we know whether it's nevuah, b'chalom adaber bo, or it's hachalomot shav yedaberu? So Rava asks that question in the Gemara in Brachos. And the answer is, lo kashya, kan al yedei malach, kan al yedei shedim. The Gemara answers, some dreams are a message with it from an angel as a messenger of God, and some it's just shedim. Shed is a ghost, right? Shed. What? Spiritual ghosts, whatever. Yeah. So he says, yes, dreams, there are such dreams, and there are such dreams. Now comes the Tashbetz and says, now, when we learn from our sages and also our common sense, we know it from our common sense, both what the sages are telling us, that some dreams are from the angels and some are from the spiritual goats, i.e., some dreams have truth and some dreams are nonsense. And he says we're also our common sense understands that. What? Some dreams you should be concerned about, they're serious. And there's some dreams that are nonsense that we should ignore. So we're always in a doubt. When we have a dream, when a dream comes to our plate, we're always in a doubt. We are always in a suffix. The halachic category for what is the truth value of a dream is suffix. Every dream that comes to our halachic table, we have a doubt whether it's true or not. We can't totally ignore it, but we can't totally not ignore it because we have a doubt whether it's a dream from the ghosts or a dream from a prophecy, or if we'll translate it to more modern words, how much this dream is true. It could be mostly false, to be mostly true, and we're in a doubt. So the halachic category is suffix. מסופקים בזה החלום, אם הוא צודק או אם יש לנו לחוש בדבר הראוי לחוש, ושלא לחוש בדבר שאין ראוי לחוש, כפי שורשי התלמוד. So he says, so the category is a suffix in reality. And now he says, וידוע הוא, and it's known, כי בכל דבר שבממון, יש לנו להעמיד הממון שנפל בו הספק בחזקתו. We have a halachic rule regarding dinei mamonot, monetary laws, that we are, that if we have a safek, then we're going with the status quo. In order to change the monetary status quo in terms of property, you need a proof, like 2 witnesses. But if you're in a doubt, then you go to the default. You go to the chazaka. Al ze amru, and therefore, consequently, I understand the first source, he said. This person that was worried about his inheritance, and now he asks, should I treat the money as a Meiser Sheni? So the ruling goes, you don't have to rely on the dream. And since the status of this money, there is no proof that it's Meiser Sheni. There's no conclusive proof. It's just a dream. The dream is a doubt. So what is the status quo of the money? What is the default? That it's kosher money. This money before the dream was in a status of a neutral money. So divrei chalomet beke'inyan ze, in such a case, divrei chalomot lo ma'alin velo moridin lo tzih hamamon mechezkato. Aval however, says the Tashbetz, a person that was ostracized, excommunicated in a dream, there is a suffix here. Maybe it's a valid excommunication. Maybe it was done by a malach. So he's menude. If it was done by a stam ghost, then it's nonsense. He's not in excommunication. So he is now, we now have a doubt whether he's in a status of menude or not, of excommunicated or not. That's a suffix, not in a category, in a monetary category. That's a suffix in a Isser category. Sfeika de Isura. We now have a halachic suffix. Are you allowed to talk with people or not? Are you allowed to do laundry or not? It's Sfeika and it's Safek l'chumra, because it's Safek b'halacha. Umina Safek tzarich heiter. It won't help you to say here it's a sfeika d'Rabbanan, because there is a solution to this suffix. Every halachic suffix, there is a solution that I can solve the suffix, and here, or get away from the suffix, and here I have a way to get around the suffix. If I'll gather 10 people that will undo the excommunication. So that's what I should do. And what about Rabbi Natan? He goes to the last, the fifth source. Rabbi Natan, he now explains, according to his formulation, the machloket between Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Meir. But first, I'll add this point, which is very brilliant, but I want to just summarize now what the Tashbetz said. The Tashbetz said the halachic status of a dream is that there is a suffix, a doubt in reality. Okay? We can't say it's totally not valid. We can't say it's totally valid. We're in a doubt. So we apply the halachic rules of what happens if a doubt in reality came up. How do we rule halachically? And here he says it depends where. If we're talking about monetary issues, we won't change the status of the money based on a suffix. However, if we have a halachic, not in the field of money, but in the field of prohibitions, meaning, am I allowed to take laundry because maybe I'm ostracized or not? I'm in a doubt because maybe I'm ostracized, maybe I'm not ostracized. Maybe I'm excommunicated, maybe I'm not. So I'm in a doubt. It's a halachic doubt whether I'm allowed to make laundry. And I can get away from the doubt by gathering 10 people. And I'm saying, even if I'm excommunicated, okay, they undid it. So that's what I'll say there, okay? However, in the money case of the Meiser Sheni, I'll just ignore the dream, okay? I'll just ignore the dream because the status quo of the money is that it's a mutter money, and I don't have a conclusive proof to change the category of the money. And now he concludes his brilliant formulation here and says, I'll explain to you now the machloket between Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Meir in the last source. Rabbi Natan says, it's as if I had a dream that I'm ostracized until I'll reconcile with Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. There is a kavod of a Talmid Chacham. I insulted him. So when I hear in the dream, go and reconcile with him, it's as if I should be choshesh. I should be concerned that maybe the dream is true. And I have a safek isser that maybe I'm in an excommunication. Rabbi Meir says, no, what do you mean? My analogy here, that it's just talking about neutral things. In the dream, no one spoke explicitly about excommunicating. It just told me, go reconcile with him, so I can ignore it. Okay? That is the way he explains it. Now I'm asking you, I think the Tashbitz is saying here a brilliant formulation. Now tell me, what is still the problem? There are at least two problems with his approach. I want to point out, and by the way, I'll prove to you that he felt it even. He was aware of the weak points in his formulation. The first source was very clear. There was a dream. The dream was accurate, as Harold said, in 2 out of 3 points of the dream. And then the sages there ruled, Divrei chalomot lo ma'alin velo moridin. Here we're missing that you're not in the Hebrew here. Divrei chalomot lo ma'alin velo moridin. We don't care about them. It's like a bold statement. We don't care about them. Right? Now tell me, according to the Tashbitz, we don't care about dreams? No. The Tashbitz says that it's a doubt, right? The Tashbitz says that it's a doubt. And therefore, here, since the chazaka of the money, that it's a kosher money, and not a Meiser Sheni, a neutral money, not a Meiser Sheni money, so therefore here we ignore the dream. Here we ignore the dream. But that's not the music of the Gemara. I'm talking about Pshat. The music of the Gemara is Amru, they told him, Divrei chalomot lo ma'alin velo moridin. Words of dreams don't matter. Don't matter. You can't say don't matter according to the Tashbitz. Now, it's a question out of the wording of the Gemara, the music of the Gemara, that doesn't fit well the way he explains the Gemara. Now, I wanted to prove to you guys that he felt that. It's not, because look at what he adds words to the Gemara because he's well aware of this problematic part in his formulation in terms of Pshat. He says, okay, so the Gemara, the first Gemara in Sanhedrin says, you should leave the money in its original status that it's not before the dream. Meaning not Meiser Sheni, because Divrei Chalomot beke'inyan zeh lo ma'alin velo moridin. Because words of dream in such a case don't matter. Beke'inyan zeh. Look at these 2 words. In such a case. But these 2 words, in such a case, don't appear in the Gemara. He added them. Okay? Right? He says that's the meaning of the Gemara. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible to say that that's the meaning of the Gemara. Okay? He could live with this kashya. You could kvetch the Gemara that way. But I'm just showing that it's not the pshat, not the plain pshat of the Gemara. Second point, pointed by Rav Asher Weiss, is that there are actually two versions of this Gemara.
Okay, two versions. One version is indeed Meiser Sheni, and he says, Dafka, according to this version, what the Tashbit says is a little problematic. Because Meiser Sheni is not a monetary category. Meiser Sheni, in terms of money, belongs to the owner. So the discussion is not monetary, it's a discussion of Isser. And therefore, if you have a suffix regarding Isser, then you should rule L'chumra that the money is Meiser Sheni, unlike what Rav Asher Weiss says. Meaning, all right, unlike what the Tashbit says, excuse me. Meaning the question against the Tashbits is that, what do you mean? Both of the sources are talking not about a monetary discussion. Okay? The status of the money, whether it's a Meiser Sheni or neutral money, is an Isser discussion. It's not a monetary discussion. I think that the Tashbits could answer that question, by the way. It's a good question. I think he could answer it. Okay? However, there's another version in the Gemara that says that not Meiser Sheni, that the dream said that the money is hektish. Now, if the dream was that the money is hektish, then what the Tashbit says works very well. Because the Isra of the hektish, according to some opinions, it is an outcome of the monetary discussion of who does the money belong to the owner or to the mikdash, okay? So here he says, okay, hamotzi mechaveru alav araya, there's a doubt here in the dream, and I make the status quo now that the money belongs to the owner, and therefore it's mutter. Okay, so that's regarding the Tashbits. Second approach is the Shivat Zion. He makes a little change. Okay. Omnam ze yadua umevorar. He says it's known that the majority of dreams are just an outcome of some problems, physical problems that we have, and therefore they're nonsense. By the way, there is approach in science exactly like this, like what he's saying here, that it's some neurological, instinctual reactions, and therefore they really don't count. And only the very minority of dreams are indeed a message from heaven. And therefore he says, even when it has to do with an Isser, as opposed to what the Shivat Zion says, and what the Tashbit says, the Shivat Zion says, look, it's not a suffix. I disagree. It's not 50-50, 50% prophecy, 50% nonsense. It's mostly nonsense. The majority of the dreams are nonsense. But there is a minority that is a prophecy. Consequently, he says, in Isser, as opposed to the Tashbits, the Shivat Zion says, in Isser, regarding Isser, I ignore it. It's not a suffix. I apply the rules of majority, and I rule that the dream is something that doesn't count. And therefore, the statement is very bold. Divrei chalomot lo ma'alin velo moridim. Chalomos don't count. Don't matter. Why? Because vast majority of them, that they're false. The only place where I consider seriously the dreams is in the halachic categories when I am concerned with the minority. And where is that? He said, in a place of pikuach nefesh, in a place of sakana. In sakana, we say, ein olchim benefashot achar harov. We are even concerned with the minority. And he says the two cases where the Gemara treats seriously is excommunication and a bad dream. And he says both of these cases, the reason why we're treating seriously the dream is not because it's an Isser category, because it's a Sakana category. Violating excommunication is a Sakana. Okay, so I need to undo it. And the dream, so the dream, he says it's like a sign that there is a sakana, a punishment that is about to encounter, and therefore you need atonement. So that's his solution. Okay? What he gains over the tashbetz is that the statement, Divrei Chalomot lo ma'alin v'lo moridin, is indeed a pretty absolute statement. Majority, it's not a suffix. A dream is not a suffix. A dream, the majority of it, that it's false. Okay? That's what he says. However, Rabbi Asher Weiss says, and I go in his direction, but a little different, perhaps. We're basing ourselves on the Ran here. V'kevan sheken, mashma li meha, demishen adar b'chalom, ein tzarich heter. Okay, there is a machloket whether one who made a vow in a dream, should he be matir his own vow? And it's machloket between the Rashba and the Ran. Okay? So the Ran disagrees with it. With the Rashi says you don't need. Why? Because divrei chalomot lo ma'alin v'lo moridim, to prohibit something that is mutter. And even though one who was excommunicated in a dream, tzarich heter kedei beber kama denadarim, there it's we say from heavens he was excommunicated. But neder that it's an iser, divrei chalomot lo ma'alin velo moridim. Okay, it's a little vague what he says. Let's just continue the Rabbi Yonatan. Harei she'aya mitzta'er, the first source in Sanhedrin. Klomar, echad min ha'achim she'aya yodea bevadai she'aya nifkad avihem mima'ot ma'aser. You know what? Let's skip it. Let's go to the Tosfos in here in the Darim. And he says, when one was excommunicated, I need to gather 10 people to undo the dream. He says, because the dream is like a nevuah, so he needs to be worried from a punishment, like we saw in the Shivat Zion. Therefore, he needs 10 that will undo it. And it's because when you have 10 people, the Shekhinah is there. So since he was excommunicated by heaven, so 10 people who have the Shekhinah between them, it's like the Shamayim are matirim to him. Because it's possible, says the Ran, maybe he was excommunicated by God, really. And it seems to me, says the Ran there, even though Amrin Anacha, that someone that was excommunicated in a dream needs to be undone with 10 people, because here, heaven excommunicated him. But if I made a vow in a dream, so it's not heaven, I made a vow in a dream. Okay? So that's how he distinguishes between the two. I'll tell you where all of this is leading to. Rabbi Shivai says in I think he says, here, I'll find you the terminology, 1 second. Here, and then I'll tell you my shtickle, what I felt that was missing from his formulations. Maybe he meant it, but he didn't say it. Yeah, that he says, Ein shayachut bein bet sugiyot elu. Second. Here, I'll even share you his wordings. Yeah, nira ikar masha katav bechidushay haran, that there is no relationship between these two sugyos. Because when the dream's purpose comes to clarify things in reality, meaning to tell me whether this money is Meiser Sheni or not, then it has no validity. And regarding that, the dreams are saying that the sages are saying that they don't count. But when I was excommunicated in a dream, there is no bearer of a suffix. There is no reality figuring out. It's just a certain category of excommunication. Very nice. Meaning, that's a clear distinction. He says, if the dream is coming to tell me, I want to know, is this money Meiser Sheni or not? Here, the dreams don't count. However, if it doesn't deal with reality, with some doubts that I have in reality. Here, we see that's the Gemara Nedarim. If I was excommunicated in a dream, so I take it face value. There is a category of communication of God excommunicates you via a dream. The dream didn't come to clarify a certain suffix that I had in reality. But I think that I have something missing here in what Rabbi Weiss is saying. And that's exactly the point that was said here in the beginning. I think the common denominator between the first two approaches, the Tashbetz and the Shivat Zion. Yeah, Armana, the Tashbetz said, we're in a doubt whether it's true or not. And therefore we apply the rules of doubts to each halacha category. And comes the Shivat Zion says, no, we're not in a doubt. We know that a dream, the majority that it's false, and there is a minority that it's not false, and consequently they apply halacha in the different categories according to that. But the common denominator between the two, that the question at stake here is whether the dream is true or not. Right? That's the first step. As I started my shir, or if we want to know if there's halachic validity, we should first figure out what is the truth value of a dream, right? That's how I started the shir. And they follow that path, these two, the Shivat Zion and the Tashbetz, and perhaps even Rabbi Weiss. That's my criticism. Perhaps. It's a little vague here. And I want to say, based on the Ran, again, just like Rabbi Weiss, no. Let's assume the dream is true. Let's assume the tree is true 100%. Just for the sake of discussion, let's assume that every dream is nevuah. Still, divrei chalomot lo ma'alin velo moridin. Why? As was said here, lo b'shamayim. That's why I won't use a dream to figure out, as Rabbi Weiss, whether it's Meiser Sheni or not. But the reason why I'm not using it is not because I'm not sure about its truth value. I don't care about its truth value. If you ask me, probably the Tashbetz is correct that it's a doubt. Or maybe the Shivat Zion is correct that the majority that it's false and the minority that it's true. Not relevant. Not relevant. I had a dream, Harold, the first dream. It told me exactly where the money is. It told me exactly how much money it is. I wouldn't have found the money without the dream. Do I have any doubt whether the dream is true? The dream is true. And perhaps even the message that it's Meiser Sheni, it's part of that dream, but we don't rule halacha according to dreams. Divrei Chalomot, it didn't say Divrei Chalomot Sheker. It didn't say Divrei Chalomot Shav. It said Divrei Chalomot Lo Ma'alin Velo Moridin. They're not relevant here. That's the statement of the Gemara. Now that solves everything. Because in the first two cases, the Meiser Sheni money and the question when Rabbi Meir, according to halacha, had to prevent the person in charge of the orphans from selling land. That's the halacha, that someone that is in charge of our orphans cannot sell their lands. So what do I care that he received a dream that God's will is that guy will sell the land? Lo b'shamayim, divrei chalomot, says Rabbi Meir, lo ma'alin v'lo moridin. Not that they're false. It's true. God, indeed, that's a prophecy Rabbi Meir received. But it's not relevant for ruling halacha. Lo ma'alin v'lo moridin. That's the wording. Now, what happens with the excommunication and the dream, the bad dream at night? What happens with these two? Clear. As Rav Asher Weiss says, as the Rishonim say, when I'm excommunicated by God in a dream, or by someone, not by me. Yeah, it's not a vow that I took in the dream. Then that's a certain halachic category in Hilchos excommunication, that there is such a construct of being excommunicated in that way. So it's not that I use the dream to define a certain suffix that I had in halacha. Okay? The same regarding a bad dream, that I had a dream and now the next day I'm making a fast. Okay? It's because here, again, I didn't use the dream in order to make halachic decisions. Okay? Here it's an option or an assumption that I need atonement for it, and that we know that your oneg Shabbos on Shabbos will not be well dafka if you'll eat. By the way, some Rishonim say that explicitly. How are we matter you to fast on Shabbos, even though it's not appropriate? Because here in your oneg Shabbos, in this specific context, eating will cause you pain, because you really need now psychologically to dream. So here, the halacha permitted it, okay? But again, the main message of Divrei Chalomot lo ma'alin v'lo moridin is lo b'shamayim, as was said here. And now, last source, and I'll conclude with that. I know that I'm off time. Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Natan's machloket, after they insulted Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. So Rabbi Meir, as I said, he saw it as halacha, as if they were telling me, halachically you're obligated to apologize. No, I analyzed the situation. I think that halachically I shouldn't apologize because Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, he was wrong. So I'm not, it's not a function in halacha. And Rabbi Natan, I think he saw it as a message from heaven, even though either the way the Tashbitz explained that it's as if there's an implied excommunication here for insulting a chacham, excommunication from heaven, or no, that it's a neutral message, not a halachic message. It's a neutral messach in terms of bein adam lechaveru, derech eretz kadma Torah. Consequently, he went and apologized. Okay. Adkan.
Is that why we say Erev Yom Kippur and Hataras Nedarim?
Why are we saying Hataras Nedarim? No, we're saying Hataras Nedarim.
We mentioned Nidui and Chalomos.
Oh, yeah, okay. We're saying Hataras Nedarim in general that we did. Maybe we weren't careful, as we said, in the laws of vows, and we took some vows without knowing that we're taking vows. We violated vows without knowing that we're violating vows, etc.
What's interesting is that, and maybe there are sources, but none of them discuss the dreams of Yosef, which seems to be the original source of, or the original examples of dreams and their significance, et cetera, et cetera. And his interpretive powers and all of that.
You mean Yosef's dream about the wheat and the
and the interpretation of Paro, that the dreams that should be like the original source from which some of these statements by Chazal would have emanated and taken into consideration.
Right, but again, I think that was included in this ambivalent Rava's challenging two psukim contradicting each other, Chalom being prophecy, Bachalom adaberbo, and then you have a verse, Chalomot shav yadaberu. Yaakov here is dreaming, also a dream, only no one is, and I think that it has a meaning. I have pshatim here. By the way, my other option for the shir today was to speak about Yaakov's dream and the different interpretations of it, but I then chose to do this year. Okay, so and here, by the way, based on the Babylonian Talmud's formulation about the role of the solution of a dream, it's a question whether when Yosef solves the dream of the Sarah Ophim and the Sarah Mashkim, how much power was in the very fact that Yosef solved it this way or that way. Okay, meaning maybe he could have solved Sarah Ophim's dream in a good way, and then Sarah Ophim wouldn't be hung. Just a question.
You could say Yosef back then did have the power of Nevuah, so theoretically, so it's a completely different situation than Bisman Hazeh.
Yeah, אוקיי. בסדר, אז תודה רבה, להתראות. שבת שלום.
Thank you very much.